Good evening, everyone. My name is Brenda Ahlberg, Kenai Peninsula Borough Information Officer. And with me tonight are some guests that are with regards to the whole community concept and our volunteer and donation management, Leslie Rohr with Love Inc., as well as Bud Sexton, who works for the borough. He's got many hats, including Deputy Incident Commander, Public Information Officer, and our whole community program coordinator. And I want to welcome both of you tonight. And also our Incident Commander, Dan Nelson, hashtag Disaster Dan, as we like to affectionately call him, is with us here tonight as well. And thank you so much, all of you, for taking time out of your evening to share with us some information regarding volunteer and donation management. I'd like to start with Dan. If you could please provide us an update tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody, for joining us this evening and tuning in our broadcast. I think we're going to have a great conversation tonight. And I will just start out the video. If anybody wants to make Disaster Dan a trending hashtag, I'm not going to complain about that. So let's review just a little bit about what's happened here since we talked last. Your borough incident management team and all of the cities and hospitals have really done a lot that has to do with the planning and getting ready for that healthcare surge we've been talking about for a couple of weeks. And really everybody is kind of on a standby mode. You know, we always look at how we manage these things and what resources we need. And right now we've drawn down our efforts quite a bit. We have our plans in place. We have everything ready to go. So we'll look at those numbers and keep paying attention to the science and the data that comes from our health professionals and see where we need to go from there. So really we are in a state of readiness, but not too much active things with the exception of volunteer and donation management that we'll talk about tonight. So that's a great thing and I'm looking forward to it. As far as an update from the state, as far as case count, we do have a total of 300 cases in the state of Alaska, 16 cases on the Kenai Peninsula Borough. So we did have another case added in Sterling since we last talked. Besides being ready and making sure we're doing the things we need to do for COVID, I did just want to mention that the Office of Emergency Management, our staff, as well as our incident management team, is also planning for anything else that might happen. And we are getting into wildfire season. I don't know about you, but the snow at my house is melting pretty fast. So do keep in mind that we really are in fire season here in April. So we're working with forestry and having plans ready in case that were to happen while we still have the COVID incident going on. So really a multifaceted thing, and we always try and stay ahead of that curve and be ready for whatever really life throws our way. So that's just a brief update. I want to give time to our guests, so I'll hand this back to Brenda.
Thank you. And thank you, Bud Sexton and Leslie Rohr, for joining us tonight. Want to start out with kind of the bigger picture, and we'll drill down into what this plan, the complementing actions prior to and leads up to our Love Inc. relationship with the borough and the benefits to our residents. So I'll start with Bud Sexton, who is with the Office of Emergency Management, who really helped bring together the whole community plan. And if you don't mind, Bud, taking some time to share with us what that means and how that came to fruition and how it's developed over the last year and a half.
Thanks, Brenda. And so when we take a look at the Kenai Peninsula Borough, there's several things we know, and that disasters happen, somewhat frequently, right? And we know that disasters continue to take place. And so with whole community, what we really looked at doing is how do we build a framework ahead of time? When we know that anytime a disaster strikes, people on the peninsula help out. Community organizations and businesses and groups all come together. And so with whole community, what we really looked at doing probably about a year ago with OEM, Office of Emergency Management, we started this program where we went out and we started talking to these agencies. We started talking to the groups and the individuals in the faith-based community, and really started developing that framework of people who wanted to be able to help out during the disaster. And so instead of waiting for the disaster to strike and then, having all these different agencies come together to help out the community, we really started taking a look at building that framework ahead of time and really identifying the equipment, the resources, the talents, all of those abilities that these organizations had and brought to bear, and really bringing those, to the forefront and identifying those things ahead of time. So that way, when a disaster strikes, we have that much more of an ability to respond that much quicker. And of course, in recent years, we've had, winter storms, we've had the Swan Lake fire, and we've had a drought. And of course, now the crisis where we currently face. And so this is a real opportunity for our communities to shine, for those organizations really to come together and identify what you have to offer the community, and then bring it to be able to help out neighbors.
What do you see as far as having the plan in place? What does that mean to this current COVID-19 response across the entire borough as it relates to the whole community?
Again, when we start talking about building that disaster preparation, so when we talk to these organizations and groups and so forth, we really encourage them to take a look at their business practices and really how do they become more resilient. And so that's one thing our emergency manager, Dan Nelson, talks about a lot, is that continuity of operations plan. And really, how do we build a more resilient community no matter what it is, whether it's your home, your business, your organization. And so with whole community, we have been encouraging these groups ahead of time to really develop that plan, really take a look at how you could benefit the community during a crisis. And what I think you're seeing now is a lot of agencies, a lot of organizations really starting to implement that now. And I think our community is going to respond and recover that much faster because of the work that all of these organizations have put in ahead of time.
And I think we're seeing that across the entire borough, both the west side and the east side. Are you able to name some of the agencies that are locally involved?
Absolutely. Love Inc., one of the ones we're going to be talking about tonight for sure. But, when you take a look at the food banks, there's many different churches. In Homer, the MAP Coalition, which has, 40 or 50 different organizations as part of their network. And in Seward, there's many different faith-based community and leaders there in the community that really look at helping one another. So there's just a wide outpouring of support, I think, that is going on behind the scenes. Right now you see here and there on social media, but I think there's a lot more going on, neighbors helping neighbors, than we'll ever know about, which is okay. But it's a real exciting thing to see how these communities are really come together. And I really think you're starting to see a lot of that happening right now.
Dan, I want to bring it back to you because even just sharing the history, when this concept came to fruition, it was supported by a grant through the Alaska State Division of Homeland Security. And what was in addition to what Bud has described, from your perspective and your vision, how are you seeing, or I should say, how are you seeing the needs addressed as it aligns with this plan?
The original vision for whole community was one that realizes that really government can't do everything, and we're not the best people to be able to accomplish some of the things that we need to do. And that's especially important for some of the needs that we see. And, we certainly are very good at getting information out, and maybe we're setting up shelters, or we're doing evacuations, whatever the incident calls for that we've been able to do. But there is really a huge gap after that that has never been addressed, and that is kind of the individual needs, and really kind of down to the more personal level. I mean, frankly, our vision up here is kind of high level and top, so it's hard for us to get down to those individual needs, and really that's where this comes in, because even though perhaps the Office of Emergency Management is not the best people to handle this type of thing, we know that these other organizations that do this on a daily basis, whether they have social or charitable programs, or whether they do have some specific mission, those are the folks that already have that infrastructure, those contacts. They know how to do this quite a bit better than I. So getting those connections and making sure that all of those communities throughout the Kenai Peninsula are represented, that we're able to put in place and be able to address those needs. So, this is a framework that we've discussed and we've planned. And, as often happens with Murphy's Law, I'll just share with you, we had a scheduled training and exercise to try and test all these plans out we've been working on. And of course, seems like COVID beat us to it. So we're getting this started in the thick of things. So it's going to be a kind of a good test. And I think we'll have some successes, but we'll learn some lessons from this as well.
That real time, if you will, is a great segue into Love Inc. and introducing Leslie Rohr. Leslie, I would like it if you could share with us what your organization is all about and how it relates to supporting this crisis and this response.
Yeah, so our organization is faith-based. And we are here to help our neighbors in need across the community. And our particular affiliate serves the entire Kenai Peninsula Borough. And we use a lot of volunteers to meet a lot of needs within the community throughout the year. And this has just kind of been an extension of what we do on a daily basis. Bigger scale.
So basically you're taking someone's request and you're trying to marry it with someone who has the ability to take care of that request.
Exactly. We operate as a clearinghouse on a regular basis. And that is, needs come into our ministry, and then we do find the appropriate resources to fill those needs. And we just are doing it on a larger scale now.
And then the nice thing about having you as that clearinghouse is that you have also those connections throughout the entire borough. What are you seeing, I guess, as far as the kind of requests that are coming into your facility?
So our requests from the community are primarily for transportation needs. We're also getting requests for cloth masks. We're getting requests for food assistance. And then people beginning to have issues with being able to pay utility bills and rent payments and stuff.
And have you been able to support other organizations as well?
Yeah, so, and I have to say that other organizations are helping to support us as well. So I can tell you that as we prepared to be the donation collector and volunteer coordinator for this pandemic, I reached out to Alaska Missions and asked for 3 trailers to store donations in and had them within a few hours. When we're looking for emergency housing for people who need to be quarantined, they reached out to one of our other nonprofits looking for space there. So, and those agencies in turn, support us with goods and services as well that we can share with the community.
But I wanted to ask you a question in relation to the coordination among the nonprofits. Has the borough worked with other agencies in similar fashion, such as Samaritan Purse or others?
Absolutely. Samaritan's Purse has definitely outreached to the borough during this time and made some of their assets available. And I know they hit the media cycle, I think it was last week, when the real big plane brought in just a large amount of PPE supplies. And so I think that's just one of the examples of organizations that are reaching out, to be able to help out the community. We've heard about businesses locally that have donated large supplies of PPE to our first responders and to our healthcare community. So there are definitely situations out there during this, which are bright, rays of hope and of bright moments of people helping people and neighbors and, businesses, they're crossing different boundary lines. It's businesses helping individuals and vice versa. And I think we're going to come out of this a lot stronger.
Leslie, what are you seeing as some initial challenges in your setup to assist? I mean, the borough's a big place and creating those collaborations.
It is a big place, and we have great connections down in Homer with our partner churches down there, and a great team of volunteers. We're building better or stronger relationships in Seward. And we have always reached across the inlet. And so, we continue to do that as well. Well, most of those outreaches are done by phone. But we, having the cooperation of agencies throughout the community has made it a lot easier to plan and to identify what resources are available and how best to utilize them.
Let's talk a little bit about planning, and I'll address this question to Dan. It wasn't a matter of just, all right, here, go. There was some planning in place. We've talked about planning, right? So this is one of those benefits where the planning was done and now it's being executed. Can you share with us what that entailed?
Planning sounds like there's a lot of very highly technical things involved in it. And when we really talk about something like this, I'll have to say that planning is really sometimes another word for relationship building and being able to reach out to those organizations and reach out to all the players and identify, what can you bring to the table and what are some potential needs that we can see. So when we went through this process, we did some meetings, we did some, kind of larger group type things, but, really a lot of it was one-on-one and really looking at each area of the peninsula. And administratively, we don't really talk about it externally too much, but we actually divide the Kenai Peninsula Borough into 4 zones. Remember, the borough is about 19,000 square land miles. And, when you're in the South Peninsula or you're in the East Peninsula, your community and your needs and your organizations and your infrastructure maybe look a lot different than when you're here in the Central Peninsula. So we recognize that really that planning process had to happen really in each community, in each zone, so to speak, as we call it, to create plans that were really relevant to the community. We went into this really wanting to be sure that whole community isn't something that we're taking over another organization or we're saying how something is to be done, but it's really something as how can we complement what people are doing and then put it into a disaster setting. Because when we do that, there's a lot more process and there's a lot of important things that we do for safety and documentation and making sure that all those things happen. And, quite frankly, that's not usually how most organizations work on a day-to-day basis. So being able to start talking about those things and marrying up those processes. So those are just a few examples, but it was just a tremendous amount of time investment and work and really building it from the ground up.
Okay, Miss Leslie, I understand, and I reached out to the food bank first because I wanted to let them know that we were going to be talking about this, so they weren't surprised by this conversation. Yeah. But I wanted to use them as an example of right now they're an organization in need. They are serving about 150 hot meals a day that folks come up and take their meals. They also have whatever the grocery needs may be, and they coordinate that with the individuals one at a time. So they're still open, but right. It's my understanding that they have needs. And the newest one was that they need gardening tools. They don't have any. So that request has come forward. Can you walk me through how that's going to be fulfilled?
So I will put out my feelers for gardening tools for the food bank. And this is something that I feel certain that our community will step up and replace those things that were taken. So we'll have a request out tomorrow on our Facebook page, just reminding people that there are needs that you may have in your garage: a rake, a shovel, a hoe, anything that can help the food bank get their ground prepped for the hoop house in their gardens.
So anyone who has the ability, they can look you up on your Facebook page, or they can make comments accordingly, or they can call you, I assume?
Yes, ma'am. They can call us at 262-5140.
You don't call yourself very often, do you?
No, not that line.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And so that's just one example of many. And so I'm sure after tonight, people are going to want to know, well, what else do you need? What else is out there that we can contribute to? Can you help walk us through what that looks like?
Right. So I know in particular right now, the food bank needs individual sized, non-perishable food that does not require cooking. So, or a can opener. So when people are homeless or living in substandard and don't have the ability to prepare meals, and the food bank is not able to have them in for a sit-down meal, it's imperative that we make sure they have an ample supply of food that they can prepare in whatever their living situation is. So individual serving sizes of the tuna, cup of noodles where they only have to add hot water is, one of the things that are really difficult to get right now. And if you've been to the grocery store and tried to buy cup of noodles for your teenagers, it's not easy. They're in short supply. So the food bank will never get bulk amounts of those kinds of things. So if people wanted to pick up a little extra when they do their shopping, and they can deliver it to us at Love Inc., and we will provide it to the food bank, or they can take it directly to the food.
The nice thing about you being that clearinghouse is for when it frees up the opportunity for those other organizations to continue doing their business. And that allows you to basically ferret through whatever that request may be to get them the correct donation. And
right.
But I wanted to ask you, do you have anything else that you can share with us that I might have missed in talking to Leslie or even with whole community?
I would say, Brenda, now's the time to make a difference. We've prepared for this moment, over the last year. And, for many people, they've done it for many years prior. It's not just something that they just started in the recent months, but many organizations have started well ahead of time. And so now's the time to make a difference. Now's the time to put those plans into action and help out your community. Take a look around, as we mentioned, with the food bank. Everyone has a spare tool that they can provide to the food bank. But if you're a business, if you're an organization, a faith-based community, a church, an individual, you have something that can be used to make a difference in your community. Maybe you don't need all of those rolls of toilet paper. I mean, maybe you give one up, for the good of the cause. But now is that time to go ahead and make a difference in the community. And it doesn't have to be the biggest things. Sometimes it's the smallest things that make the biggest difference. So now is the time to be able to start helping out your community. And many of people have been doing that already. But if you haven't, just want to encourage you to go ahead and take that initiative and help out your neighbor.
And we are seeing, I was looking at the comment thread to see if there was any additional questions. And what I'm seeing is people are offering some things that they have. So I think this is also timely if you are wondering, well, how do we? do XYZ to achieve ABC or vice versa, let's give Love Inc. a call. They're definitely situated and prepared to take on those donations and to match them up with the need. And as Leslie said, you've got your contact information. If you want to go ahead and provide that again, and we'll certainly do that in our comment threads.
So our phone number is 262-5140, or you can email peninsulaloveinc@gmail.com. And then our Facebook page is Love Inc. of the Kenai Peninsula.
And what are your hours of operation?
Our hours are Monday through Friday from 9 to 4.
Okay, so people, if they aren't able to get you after hours, they can at least leave messages and let you know so you can coordinate it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good to know. I'm going to take a moment here real quickly to see if there's any additional questions. I'm not seeing questions, but definitely seeing some folks out there that are willing to help or to share some additional information. And just lots of support in the comment thread. I really appreciate that. I'm going to ask you guys both for some closing comments, and I'll start with Miss Leslie. What are your thoughts tonight that you'd like to share with our audience?
I believe that when all is said and done, we are going to be a much stronger community. And I think the most important thing that we need to remember at this point is that while we practice physical distancing, we don't need to practice social distancing. We need to check on our neighbors and make sure they're okay.
Very well said. Thank you, Miss Leslie. Bud, closing comments for tonight?
Yeah, I would just say, Brenda, as we've talked about, whole community approach to things. And, it really does take the whole community to come through something like this. There's certain segments that are definitely feeling the pinch way more than others. And, when we take that whole community approach, we do recover that much faster. If you take a look at any disaster across the country, those organizations, those communities that come together, they will recover much quicker than they would otherwise. So, whether you're a community organization, business, individual, faith-based church, you name it, now's, when we come together in that whole community approach, we do recover better.
I want to thank both of you guys for taking the time tonight to join us and to share with us just this great opportunity for all of us to come together and be part of. And with that, I'll ask Dan for some closing comments, please.
We've been at this now for 4 or 5 weeks. We've started to see some of the long-term impacts and some of those things that are going to be affecting us. And really we'll be seeing, I think we all know this, we'll be seeing the effects of this for many months or longer down the road. And so one of the things that I really want to address in our time today is the importance of helping your neighbors and being able to check in with each other. And we've been talking about this, and I know I've provided suggestions. You've heard them from many other people to check in with people or use the tools and technology available to maintain the social connections, as Leslie mentioned. And the Love Inc. and the clearinghouse concept of being able to help our neighbors as this goes through, whether you're in a position to help or whether you need some help with something, whether that be a mask or anything else, that's where it's really so important to help us with the recovery and to be sure that we're able to really serve our residents. The borough is here. We are here for you. It sounds a little cliche, but when we manage these emergencies and we look to mitigate the effects, we really are looking out for the individuals. And this is a way for the borough, without expending staff time and some of those resources, to be able to use this concept and to take advantage of all of the people that are doing these things already, and really just kind of put a little bit of structure to that in order to make it easier to access. There have been a lot of groups and a lot of organizations and cities that have really done a great job of this so far. I definitely want to recognize all of our cities, and Homer and Seward. A lot of those things on those areas of the peninsula have been happening and been very successful, and certainly remember, this is not to take away anything from them. This is to provide that method and kind of provide that conduit in order to do that. So what I'd encourage folks to do is please don't be shy about contacting Love Inc. I think we'll have more information in the days to come, maybe on specifics and some of those things. So please keep watching KPB Alerts on Facebook and Twitter, kpboem.com. I want to thank Leslie and I want to thank Bud, both who have really done a tremendous amount of work in building this framework. And we're going to go on a shakedown cruise, I think, a little bit with this right now. And we're going to do our best. And I know that, our communities, the Kenai Peninsula Borough, is a great place to live. And we know that people step up. They tend to step up without one second thought as much as they can. And I know Brenda, I've been seeing some of our comments too, and just some of the great things that are happening and where you can get resources or what I can donate. So we know that this is affecting everybody differently. If you have those abilities, we certainly encourage you to step forward. And if you can't right now or not sure how you can help, like I say, stay tuned to those official sources. We'll be helping to push some of that information out. And Love Inc. and Leslie's team and all of the volunteers from all of their affiliate agencies that you don't see are working hard to be able to help provide for these needs and to provide a little bit of stability, a little bit of normalcy in our days and in our weeks. So wrap up. Thank you again, everybody, that whether you're affiliated with an agency or not, I think just about everybody has probably done something for a friend, a neighbor, as we've gone through this. So I thank you for that. Let's keep doing that and keeping our community a great place to live. We're going to go ahead and sign off. We'll be back with this broadcast on Tuesday night. So next Tuesday night, right here at 7 on KPB Alerts. And of course, keep up with our website and our social media until then for any updates. But I hope everybody has a great Friday and a very, very good weekend. And we'll see you on Tuesday. Leslie and Bud, thanks so much for joining us. And thank you, Brenda, as always, for kind of coordinating and keeping us all on track during these videos. So have a great night, everybody.
Good night.